So, Rhys, you were planning on going to Europe start of the year, right? Because I have the perfect recommendation, okay? All right, hear me out. So, there is this little picturesque town in Slovakia, and there is so many women there, and because there's so few guys due to, like, some war or some shit that happened, they will be all over you, especially because you're a tourist, right? You will love it.
And there's no drawbacks to this place?
Of course not. I mean, yeah, there's the minor chance you may get sold into torture trafficking, but apart from that, it's basically a fairy tale, dude.
I can live with it.
Gotta be fucking kidding.
Here's the first movie.
Did you know I'm utterly insane?
Peel that pig and slice him thick.
The body count is always bigger.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
The fucking trees walked in those movies.
Hi, doggy.
What a story, Mark.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled.
It's just like your opinion, man.
Life moves pretty fast.
If you want your sequel to become a franchise.
37 dicks.
In a row?
I'm your number one fan.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Marathon Me with your hosts Rhys
And Kane.
And we're starting another franchise this week. Another horror franchise, 2 in a row. I know, a bit going heavy-handed on the horror, but it's just a trilogy. And Kane and I, got together in person for this trilogy, so it's a very special one, and we were thinking to either do something iconic like The Godfather, or maybe go more back to our less serious sort of kids franchise, but instead, we ended up doing something completely different. Kane, what trilogy did we decide to marathon?
So today, guys, we are going to be marathoning the Hostel movies, in a way, landmark of the torture porn subgenre of the mid 2000s, and yes, Rhys also did mention that we were dabbling with the idea of going back to the silly kind of child movies and all that. We were going to do open season.
We were this close. We were a freaking hair's thickness away from doing open season.
So close. And what a franchise that would have been to do, to watch together in person. Because, the last series that we watched together in person was Back to the Future, right?
Yep, exactly.
So what a series it would have been to follow up with. But you know what? We decided to go, I think because we're still riding off the high of the Omen movies and, just on that horror talk high, which is let's do another. Let's smash out another one. Why the fuck not?
When I thought that we had the time, when I sort of figured out that we would have the time to, when I'm in Melbourne, watch these movies together, I was like, what do I want to marathon with Kane in person? And there's nothing better than watching a good, succinct, schlocky horror franchise with you, man.
Oh,
and
man,
that's exactly what we did.
Oh, nothing else beats it. I love that kind of shit. Obviously, we loved doing it with Friday the 13th, and we loved doing it back in the day with the shitty Halloween sequels. And now here we are again with the good old Omen. Well, not the Omen movie. Sorry, I'm still in Omen mode right now. I got to get out of that I got to get out of that religious horror mode and get into the schlocky torture porn horror mode. I reckon.
You're still possessed. That's okay. It's hard to sort of exorcise these demons from you when they get their claws so deep inside you. I am so glad that we chose to do this, because if we ever did do the Hostel movies another time, where we maybe weren't together physically in person, I would have had a terrible time watching these alone, I think.
You reckon?
These movies feel like they are made to be watched with people.
Completely.
To sort of together sympathize, as well as simultaneously hate the characters, as well as point out how sort of gross and outdated some of the sexualization of characters are and things like that. If I watched this gritty, ultra-violent and over-the-top film by myself in my bedroom, I would have felt a lot dirtier than watching it with you right there.
But in a way, it kind of would have added to the experience in a sense. You'd feel more immersed later on when shit starts to hit the fan. But to be fair, it would probably hinder your kind of your just general enjoyment towards the movie watching it by yourself, I feel. So fair enough.
So there's 3 of these movies, right? Very easy to get all of them done in quick succession. I think that we knocked them out in like 4.5 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
What is the history that you have with the Hostel movies?
The history that I have of these movies is that, like back when I was like, super into horror, when I was like 11, 12, when I was too young to be watching horror movies, but was doing it anyways. These were just on my radar. I was like, oh, these are movies about torturing people. Oh yes, I'm so in. Let's watch them. And then having watched them when I was like 11 and 12, being completely more blindsided by the amount of nudity and sexual content in this movie. My fucking god! Like all I remembered about this movie, like when I was 12, was just a lot of blood, a lot of tits. Like that was it. Just a lot of TMB, a lot of tits and blood, a lot of blood and tits. Tits and blood.
There's definitely a lot of column A and a lot of column B there.
Oh, most definitely.
And this movie, to me, when watching the first one anyway, felt like these were made to be like the sleepover overnight blockbuster rentals when you're like 14 or something, and you've talked your dad into letting you rent a horror movie or something for you and your best mate or your like group of friends, and then you're watching it feeling so naughty about it all, and there's like so much freaking nudity that it's made for the 14-year-old boy, right? And then it gets dark and gross, and then probably makes these 14-year-old boys feel worse than they ever have with a movie before. In also this way that it's, even though that it is really catering to that sort of audience, right? It also is doing so in this way that it is almost commenting on exactly what this sort of male gaze wants to see, but then exactly what they don't. So it would have been a very uncomfortable experience, and I'm glad that I dodged that when I was in my teens.
I didn't even get the luxury of watching it with people when I was in my teens. I just watched it by myself on my family's home computer back in the day in the living room. So technically I had a live audience with me, but they weren't exactly watching it,
That is a terrible way to be watching this movie.
I had no other means, Rhys. I didn't have the DVD yet.
That is okay. I understand, but it would have aided to the grossness of the whole thing, I feel.
Oh yeah, completely.
Pretty much all that I knew about this film was, well, this franchise as a whole, was the whole idea that it is worse than Saw. And even to this day, when I was talking to my mom about putting this out there and that we're marathoning the Hostel movies, she was saying the same thing, and she was like, she was saying how it still irks her, this franchise, because of how real it feels, of how this could really happen. And that is a fair idea, this idea of like people kidnapping and like human trafficking in remote sort of unknown locations where you already feel unsafe and like you're sort of out of your depth. So I do get that perspective. Also, like, thinking of the context of when this came out, the first Hostel movie came out in the same year as Wolf Creek. So, very upsetting and scary year for backpackers everywhere.
Completely, man. Completely. Especially, like, what's it called? Like, the time period that it was kind of released in, like, very, like, Bush-era America, where a lot of, like, not to get political, but, a lot of other countries weren't exactly very happy with, like, just Americans in general with their whole, uber patriotic state of mind at the time. Obviously with, things that had happened back in 2001. Very like, oh yeah, we're American and, we're proud of our country. And then also, like having like the Iraq War happening, a lot of foreign countries just were not happy with Americans. So, there would be a lot of tensions with, American backpackers in different countries and, some of them, not saying all of them, but, some of them would like the characters in this movie would disrespect like the locals or the cultures or that kind of stuff, and then on the other side of the spectrum, the locals would just be like, oh, Americans, oh, they're all the same, they're all fucking dickhead cheeseburger eating Yanks and all that, like fuck them. Like there was just a lot of tension between the two parties,
Well, I think before we get too deep into the first Hostel film, here's a bit of the trailer from the movie. So essentially, the first Hostel movie follows 3 backpackers going through Europe, and 2 of them are American. They've also picked up their friend Ollie. He's from Iceland, and they find themselves in a hostel and get the very wise advice from a boy named Alexei, telling them to go to this remote town in Slovakia where all the women are easier than anyone that they've ever met, hotter than any women that they've ever come across, and they will make all of their sexual dreams come true there. And then, lo and behold, they get there to Slovakia, find these women that have been in the legends about the place, but then it ends up that they get kidnapped, tortured, sold, and all amounts of shit goes down. These movies are synonymous with the director Eli Roth. I feel like when you think of this movie, or if you think of this director, you join the two very, very closely. And we've already spoken a lot about this guy when we were talking about the Tarantino movies. And so also tie it all together, Tarantino's production company produced this movie as well.
Yes, they did.
So,
yes, I remember as a kid, I always thought that Tarantino co-directed it or some shit. Like I didn't understand what an executive producer was back in the day. I was like, oh, this is a Tarantino movie. Oh my god! And then obviously, I grew up and I was more knowledgeable, and I'm like, oh, okay, no, it's just executive producer. So he probably threw in one line and said good job, guys, and then boom, executive producer.
The old trick of putting a produced by credit for a sort of notable auteur director to make people think that it's it's coming from the same voice. Where really Tarantino just essentially funded this movie and didn't really have much else to do with it other than one cameo as a shirtless dude yelling at the backpackers as they're going through the town and through the streets. Did you notice that?
Did he actually cameo in the movie? Because I did not see that. I didn't even notice that.
When watching the movie, I thought that it could have been him, but he's on screen for a couple of frames. You know when they get locked out of the hostel and then Ollie starts singing on the streets?
Yeah.
The first person to yell at him is Tarantino from the window.
No fucking way. Okay, what the fuck? All right,
in a white singlet.
I'm gonna have to rewatch that scene. I need it. I'm gonna have to see this later. I'm gonna have to investigate.
I thought it may have been him, and then I was like, nah, I don't think so. And then doing further research, it is him, apparently, according to the internet.
Okay, I definitely gotta debunk this later.
And one of Eli Roth's, I think, biggest impact on this film is this vision of making an ode to sort of exploration of foreign horror and how. In many ways of the style and sort of a lack of boundaries that is sort of seen for foreign horror and horror from Europe and things like that in the mid to early 2000s, as well as the sort of sensation I feel that when watching a horror movie or just a film from a different culture, there is this sort of feeling of alienation and sort of you don't properly understand the culture and the environment just yet, which gives you a little bit more insecurity and division from what is going on here. And I think that is a perfect style to emulate, right? When you're following characters that are fishes that are fish out of water, unfamiliar with their environment and their surroundings, and then find themselves in a really horrendous situation. But anyway, Kane, I want to hear, what do you feel about this first Hostel movie?
I remember, because the last time I actually have I've seen this movie since I was a kid. I rewatched this last year, loved it. Surprised by how much I loved it. And when I was told that we were going to do a marathon of these movies, I immediately was like, oh fuck yes, okay, I can't wait. And then upon a rewatch of this movie, I gotta say, I still feel the same that I did last year. I think this is a great time. I fucking love this movie. I think it's just I think it's a really great time, honestly. What about you?
So I had so much fun with you watching this, but I was very conflicted with the viewing experience because if you probably asked me right away after watching the film, I would probably say that I didn't like this movie because...
Really?
because it made me feel so sick. And,
Right, yeah.
But like, in saying that, it's a horror film that's quite effective, right? I'm almost, as time is sort of going by, with it being almost like around a week now, less than a week since we've watched these, I'm beginning to appreciate the film more and more in its ability to stick with me. And it is in this balancing, I think, of like the overt, over the top, like sexuality of it, and then it's like sort of churning from that objectification to then the intense torture of it all, and like a totally different type of objectification that conflicts and like contrasts really, really nicely in this viewing experience in this perfect way to make you feel like you want to throw up.
Oh my god,
so like I have to say, like, I am so I'm very, I would probably call myself a fan of this now because
that's good.
Of the relevance that it's been able to sort of like hold in my mind.
Yeah.
But it is such an uncomfortable experience. So that's my main sort of thoughts about this movie.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair enough to have those thoughts about the movie, because maybe like it doesn't hit me as hard because I'm very desensitized to the torture porn genre, and having watched these movies and the Saw movies as a young kid, so a lot of the impact maybe would have been lost to me. But I will say that while it doesn't make me feel as sick to the effect that it did for you, it does still provide a sense of a sense of grossness, a sense of definitely like a sense of fear I would feel when watching this movie like this week and last year. A lot of it for the gore, but a lot of it also for just the more realistic horror behind it, because as we've gotten older, we've become more aware of the horrors of the trafficking world. How that is one of the scariest fates to be thrown into, where you just have no sense of agency or control. You are under the whim of these monsters that just see you as only like a product. They see you as basically like cattle, pretty much, and that in a way is even more horrifying. The blood and gore is horrifying as well, and getting murdered by these cunts is terrifying, but the lack of control and humanity that you feel, where you just feel like you are just a lamb for slaughter, that is something that has always sticked with me about these movies, watching them as an adult. That shit is fucking terrifying.
I'm so glad that you brought all of this up, because I totally agree with you that it is, I think this idea of being human trafficked is the almost purest form of human objectification, right? You are becoming solely a product for someone else that they can trade you. You are becoming their object, right? And there's something so terrifying about that, because you're not just being murdered or killed, your humanity is being stolen from you.
Yeah.
And no wonder that is so permeable and resonates and terrifies so many people, including my mum, right? Is no one wants that humanity to be taken from us. That's it's almost like your soul is being sold as well along in this trafficking.
You go first.
But also, I did want to say that, funnily enough, this film is, I don't think, nearly as graphically gore-heavy and as disgusting in this, in the gore and torture element as I was expecting it to be.
Oh, yeah.
It actually cuts away a lot more than I thought it would. And there definitely are its moments of, pretty crazy body horror, and one moment for me that stands out is when our main character, well, sort of like our main character Josh, when his heels are cut and then he stands up, and it's such an unexpected, like he falls over because he has no support from his heels, and you
get that nice money shot of his Achilles tendons just like stretching open, like because I was so excited for you to see that scene, because I'm just like, okay, here it comes. I cannot wait to see Rhys's reaction. It's fucked, isn't it?
I think I made some sort of audible sort of like, when it happened.
Oh, yeah. No, I could hear you. I was even like, I kept like side-eyeing you because I'm like, okay, I know what's coming. I want to see what his reaction is. And your reaction did not disappoint.
And that is what sort of brings me to this intense feeling of discomfort in the movie. I feel is not a direct product from the gore that we're witnessing. It's more the idea of everything that's going on. And the dichotomy that is brought up is like so effectively in this movie, where what I think it does so well is focusing on these three characters at the start.
Yeah.
And it is quite a bit until we actually see some torture happen. I think it only starts happening around the halfway mark of the film, where everything else beforehand is just sort of there's some foreshadowing and creepiness, but mainly you're just seeing three horny dudes being like going around Europe, right?
Yeah, you're basically just seeing like a really like high impact sex comedy for the first half of this movie, and then just switches lanes halfway through in the most extreme way possible.
Totally, and it feels quite sort of real in that way.
Yeah,
and the way that like there's just so much over the top nudity in this first half.
Oh my god, yeah.
That like is so like. And it's so, like, just objectifying of these female characters. I don't think that there's a female character that has, like, a proper sort of character other than being sexy in the first half of this movie, right?
Yeah, no, completely. There's no, like, female character with, like, any, like, sense of personality or agency. Like, they're all just basically sex objects for the main characters. They're just trophies for the main characters.
And I think I even said during this watch, I'm like, is this going to be a franchise where there's literally no female character with agency in this film? and like, luckily, it seemed like that we were wrong as we went. That I was wrong as we went on through the franchise.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to sort of watch from a 2024 perspective of how much these women are treated as objects in this film.
Oh my god! It's so 2005. My god.
But then it flips on that halfway mark so much, where then our three main men become objects for almost like this biological exploration in the torture scenes.
Yeah,
and like it flips the script quite heavily. And like that feels very intentional. Where
completely.
Where like. And it's interesting when a film has that, right, where one angle you can come in as a horny 14-year-old and be like, this has given me everything I want and everything I need, and then being able to watch it from a different perspective and being like, oh, okay, there's some intention here to the, like, dichotomy of objectification shown in this movie.
It's very, because, like, we'll get into, like, more of it, but one thing I just want to say about, like, these movies, and especially this first one, is that, like, surprisingly enough, like, you know, you see this franchise and this first movie is like, you know, an outsider will see it. It's just nothing but just like cheap shock value torture porn and softcore pornography. Sure, like, fair enough, you can make that assumption, but surprisingly enough,
sure, maybe it is.
Well, no, like, well, in a way, yes, you can make that argument, but I want to make the argument that, like, these films, especially this one, actually have a lot, like a decent amount of, like, of nuance to them and, like, stuff to really chew on. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't, and it doesn't really feel like that we're like we're stretching ourselves thin to find meaning and nuance in these movies, especially this first one. Like there's definitely, like, as you said, there's like intention behind what is being presented on screen. You know?
Intention behind every tit that you see.
Exactly, behind every tit, behind every pint of blood, there is intention behind it, good sir.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so, like, it's interesting, right? How we could not stop talking about how male gazy it is. The start of this movie. There'll be shots like in introducing a new environment, where it'll just be a tracking shot of like a woman's ass for like 15 seconds, and we're just like, oh my god. I think the club scene opens like that. It's just tracking shot of a woman's ass, doesn't show her face, just shows her blonde hair, and then goes like, oh, here are the three boys hanging out and trying to hit on some women. And we're just like, oh my god, man. But then it's like it is so it's very much this gaze and fascination with like the human body in the same way of how shots will linger on like the torture that comes up later in the film. And it's like this sort of this human gaze and interest in like biology and like and in grossness. It's definitely, that is definitely there as well, I feel.
Yeah. Completely.
Even though that it's like, even though that it's like, actually, what am I trying to say? Actually, no, fuck it. I think that I said my point already.
That's fine.
But also, what has to be said about this movie, the pacing, I thought was ridiculously good.
Oh, yeah, no, this is really well paced. Like, as a kid, obviously, I'm like, it's too slow, just get to the torture, blah, blah, blah. But, like, watching this, the torture doesn't come until halfway through, and you spend just, like, with these douchebag characters. But I didn't, like, find myself, like, you know, like, being like, oh, this is boring, get to the fucking torture and all that. You know, like, it's paced really well. Like, I didn't find myself, like, just getting all antsy or checking my watch or anything. Like, I'm just like, no, this is flowing, this all flows really nicely.
Even though that you really don't like these three characters all that much, I sort of didn't want to see them get hurt because of like it goes from, you can very much see these people in this light of like, oh, they're just horny young guys that are like complete sort of human wastes of space. But I think that there's also this angle of like, these guys don't know any better. They're young dudes that are like essentially almost still kids. They're like they don't really know what they're doing, and it's this sort of like misguided like journey and exploration into this dream of what like the exotic world is. And it's like they're just ignorant, right? And you don't like, I didn't want to see them sort of like be explicitly tortured here because of the sort of gross world that is already being hinted at, and like there's so much like filthiness and dirtiness that is conveyed in like the opening, as the opening credits are going on. It shows you, right, this like one of the torture rooms being cleaned and all this blood and pus being like going down drains and stuff, and you just see how filthy and uncontrolled these environments are, paired with the normalization of the person that's cleaning it just whistling and having a fun, good old time.
Oh, yeah, and man, just pressure washing the walls like me at fucking work on a Wednesday night. Like, my God.
Yeah, exactly. You like getting all the blood and pus off the walls at his pantry.
Yeah.
So like, there was never a moment where I'm like, come on, let's get to the blood.
Yeah.
And it is because I think that it is the ignorance of these people is sort of humanized, and they are flawed characters, but they don't feel like extremely disposable.
Like with this movie, it's almost kind of, you know, like the first half of this movie, it's like, you know, it's basically kind of like, you know, being like, oh yeah, you really hate these guys. Oh, they're sexist. They're homophobic. They're just all around douchebags. Oh, you guys don't like these guys? Yeah, you guys don't like these guys? Oh yeah, you're gonna hate these guys. And then, you know, as the film goes on, you know, like depending on like your tolerance for like, you know, like mid-aughts douchebaggery is really going to depend on your taste. But because you spend so much time with these characters, despite how they may be presented, you spend a good first half of this movie with these characters either like, you know, laughing at them or just wanting to see them die. But then once we actually get to, you know, the real horror, and we start getting like these characters like getting picked off and tortured and all that stuff, the film's almost kind of like, the film's almost kind of like goading you into like being like, oh yeah, you hate these characters, okay, we'll give you what you want. So the film's almost kind of giving the audience what they want to the highest extreme, where it's like, okay, you want to see these characters die? Okay, you're going to see them die, but we're going to draw it out, we're going to make it as gruesome and as unpleasant as possible. It's kind of like, you know, when you watch a slasher horror, right? When you watch something like, say, Friday the 13th, you know, the characters are a lot of the times in those movies, the characters are disposable. You don't care about them. They're just red shirts that are going to just get, that are just going to get killed in a funny way. And, you know, as an audience member, you'd be like, whoa, that's a crazy kill, oh my god, because a lot of the times they'd be done in quick succession, you know, a machete to the head or a corkscrew to the hand, you know. And, you know, the audience just doesn't think anything of it, because like, oh, funny blood and gore, oh, this is great. But with Hostel, you know, because it's so drawn out and because you've spent so much time with these characters and getting to know them, and whether or not you like them, because during the second half of the film, the amount of time and like care they put into just showing like just the absolute fucked up body horror that these characters are subjected to, the film is it's like daring you to be like, yeah, how much do you enjoy seeing this now? Do you still want to see them die? Like it's kind of like trying to, it's kind of like commenting on, it's kind of like trying to make a comment on like what do you call it? On like the kind of audience's threshold for blood and gore, where am I going with this?
No, dude, that is such a good point. Like, I 100% actually agree with you, man, because it's almost like the film is asking you, is this what you wanted? Like, do these guys really deserve this?
Yeah, I think I quoted that earlier, that like, yeah, it's a perfect way to put it, is that like, yeah, it's like the movie's giving the audience what they want, but do they want it? Like the movie's like,
do you actually want this?
Yeah.
And like that is what is so potent about that, I think, is that test then for the audience of asking like, is this what you actually want to see? Is that if you sort of answer yes, then how much better are you than the torturers, than the rich people in this movie?
That was the point. I think that was like the kind of like the point I wanted to hammer home, like at the very end when I kind of lost my train of thought. Yes, that is fucking nail on the head, man. Nail on the fucking head.
Dude, you opened a fantastic can of worms, I think. So you did all the work there, man.
No, thank you.
And like, but you did mention beforehand something that totally worth talking about is that with these three characters, and mainly our sort of main protagonist at the start, Josh.
Yeah.
Holy shit, he is definitely the biggest piece of shit out of them.
Yeah, that's really surprising, honestly, because I remember watching this movie and kind of thinking Josh was just kind of boring and like kind of like the everyman character. Like I didn't think he was as bad as like Ollie and Paxton, but yeah, he's pretty fucking bad. He's pretty fucking bad, honestly.
Like he is overtly homophobic and like it freaks out when the dude touches his leg. That's something that always like gets me so angry. Is like if like a dude hits on you and then the sort of adrenaline that will feel like toxically masculine men, where they're like, God, I need to now defend myself from this attack on my masculinity by a dude hitting on me.
I need to prove to everyone and to myself that I am not gay. I like women, so I'm going to just freak the fuck out and throw around not racial slurs, homophobic slurs and just horrible language and all that,
or get violent. Like Josh was ready to get. He was ready to get violent twice in this movie with people.
I forgot about earlier with Jason. I forgot about, he like tries to fight Jason Mewes or some shit, calling him the F-slur.
He tries to fight this Jason Mewes looking guy in the club and calls him the hard F word. And like, they're all super sort of sexist and also like racist. They do not respect the culture in any way.
No.
It's also when looking at Josh, there was something about his face that like I was like, this guy seems familiar. He's like, I've seen him in something else. Yeah. What have I seen him in? Dude, do you know what else he's been in?
No, I really don't.
Okay. he has been in another film that I remember distinctly getting from Blockbuster as like a $2 weekly.
Yeah.
He was in the Dumb and Dumber prequel, Dumb and Dumberer.
Oh.
He plays the freaking I think it's Lloyd. Like he plays the young,
like young Jim Carrey.
Oh no, he plays young Harry actually.
Oh, young Jeff Daniels. What the fuck?
Yeah. Exactly.
What the fuck?
Who would have known?
I've never seen Dumb and Dumberer. I've seen the original, obviously, and I saw like the forgettable like legacy sequel. Never seen Dumb and Dumberer. I actually forgot it existed until you brought it up.
Dude, there's a trilogy of Dumb and Dumber movies now.
Oh dear fucking god.
We can do a trilogy. We can do that for Marathon Me, man. We can revisit. We can revisit Derek Richardson, who plays Josh in this movie.
Oh, God bless. Thank goodness. We can see some more Derek Richardson goodness. Thank God. Thank God.
Something that this movie does really, really well as well is this misdirect with the protagonist, where it really, really seems like Josh is our main character, the one that will survive till the end through the first half of the movie.
It's funny because with them, like, kind of painting him as a protagonist, you know, they kind of give him, like, a bit of a backstory. It's like, I got broken up with by my girlfriend, and I'm here to, like, you know, get my freak on and get inspiration for writing and blah, blah, blah. You know, like, typical kind of, like a typical kind of, like, main character syndrome, a la, like, say, Euro Trip, or, like, you know, just, like, those, like, classic comedies where it's, like, the main character is, like, he's a bit awkward with the ladies, and he doesn't know how he feels about having sex with random people, but then he finds the one. Like, that's the kind of the way that they paint Josh in this movie, like, a very, like, 2000 sex comedy protagonist. But, obviously, they changed it up, as you're going to describe.
He's the closest to the audience insert here, I think, because he is the most reluctant with... sleeping with sex workers and things like that. There is the most, and what's really weird is this play on this audience insert trope where, like, he is the closest that we have to, like, a shared perspective. Yeah. But then he is also awful, like extremely awful in other ways. Yeah. And also, like, as I'm watching this movie, I just couldn't help but think, like, why do these guys even like Josh? Like,
I know.
He's not fun. He's really timid and, like, awkward in a lot of situations. He's not really funny.
Yeah.
He seems like that classic sort of dude that wants to be a writer, but also doesn't seem to have anything interesting going on at all. What the fuck is this dude? What is he going to write about?
Like, very much like a stick in the mud type meme. Like, you know, as much of douchebags and like, you know, sexist and whatever as Ollie and Paxton were, they were strangely endearing, you know what I mean? Especially, like, you know, like later on in the film with Paxton, but like in the first half, Ollie and Paxton, they're like really strangely endearing despite their very mid-2000s energy and like behavior, you know what I mean? Meanwhile, Josh, He's just not fun. He's just not fun to watch. Not even like I can't. But the thing is as well, I can't even, like, because at least with like Ollie and Paxton, I'm like, oh, this is fun because I can at least like laugh at their stupid, fucked up antics. With Josh, I'm one, bored by him, and then two, I'm just like, no, this guy fucking sucks. Fuck this dude.
A real Ted Mosby on crack sort of thing. The audience insert that you almost don't want to be the most similar to you, but sort of is.
Oh my dude, you nearly
minus all the homophobia.
You nearly made me spit my coffee out when you mentioned Ted Mosby. My God.
And like there's this sort of shift halfway through the movie where Josh gets killed, and then Paxton becomes our sort of final guy, just because he's like lucky enough to be locked in a freezer in a club, and he doesn't, and so he's like the last person to be kidnapped. And that really puts into perspective, I think, this way that, like, no one is safe in this world. Yeah. And that, like, even if you feel like that you're the main character and you're the safe one here, it can just be a real sliding doors moment that could mean life or death for you.
Oh yeah,
it really could.
In the blink of an eye, boom, you're a German surgeon's plaything. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. Even though the U are so short, because Josh would have this complex of like, oh no, I'm the good one in this group. Yeah. I'm the good one. I'm way less like these guys are doing all the risky behavior. They're like doing whatever they want and being degenerates. Where I'm just I'm the innocent one here.
He would so have like the I'm not like other guys. I'm the nice guy mentality. He would so like the white knight mentality. He would so fucking have that. My God.
Yeah, exactly. And then in that he is he is as bad as the rest, but then also the most boring.
Oh yeah, completely.
A fascinating member of this group that I really want to talk about is our good man Ollie.
Yeah.
So Ollie is
aka the king of the swing.
The king of the swing, the king of the swing,
the king of the swing.
And he is like. Did you do much research into Ollie?
A little bit. I know that he like basically these first two movies are basically all that he's done in like the film industry. Stars in this movie and like help produce or like work on the second one. And
he's a producer of the second one.
Yeah, and then that's it. Like he hasn't done anything else. And like because I think it was like. Him and Eli Roth met during I think location scouting or something to do with like cabin fever, I think. And Eli Roth like basically just wrote the part for the actor just because he really liked his energy, because his energy in real life matched that of the character.
And apparently Eli Roth was trying to prove that that sort of anyone could be a star if they have the charisma for it.
Yeah.
Even though this guy had zero acting experience before this.
Yeah.
Is that not fascinating?
Oh,
I find that wild.
Oh my God.
Now he is like still in the entertainment industry a little bit. This actor named Ethor Gudjonsson, I feel like is probably the way to pronounce this. And he is like he hosted a game show in Iceland in like sort of mid 2010s.
Yeah.
We've seen his entire film career in the first two movies of this franchise.
That's fucking insane.
We've 100%ed him on Letterboxd from just watching these two movies. And he's borderline the Quagmire character, and he is super charismatic.
Yeah.
I would watch more Ollie. I'm surprised that he didn't get his own sort of like prequel spin-off that is just a raunchy Icelandic sex comedy.
Oh, could you imagine? Yeah, they just some Icelandic director just makes just a made for Iceland movie about the adventures of Ollie or some shit like that. Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing that. I'd pay to see it, but sadly we won't ever get a sequel to his story because he go home.
Oh, true. He do go home.
Go home. For those who don't know, basically he disappears halfway through the movie, and then the other two characters just get a text that is so obviously just his disembodied head, just his fucking decapitated head, just on a mantelpiece. And they're just like, oh, okay, yeah, and with just the text that just says, I go home. And they're just like, yeah, okay, he goes home. So clearly fake, but these characters are fucking morons that they're like, oh, yeah, no, okay, let's just give up looking for him. Let's just go have sex again. Like, are you kidding me?
They're like, we don't know him anyway. He's an adult. He's just doing his thing. He'd go home.
Fucking God, Jesus. Real great detective work, boys. Fuck me.
Okay, so my pitch to Lionsgate would be that Ollie's film is going to be a prequel movie of him before meeting Josh and Paxton on his backpacking journey. That he ends up in some sort of like Swedish college dorm.
Yeah.
And he starts a frat. And it's called Ollie's House.
Ooh.
That's what it's going to be called.
Very nice, very nice.
From the Book of Hostel.
The Book of... Oh, dear God. So basically, all I'm thinking right now is basically you just want to see an Icelandic version of Van Wilder, pretty much, instead of Ryan Reynolds.
That is exactly what's happening, but it's Ollie. And he's not even enrolled in the college. But he ends up getting a whole frat that is... Oh, actually, that's what the plot is that he is so upset and he's mortified and livid about the idea that people that aren't enrolled in college can't join a frat house. So then he makes his own frat house for people that aren't enrolled in college to still party and get with the women and all that sort of stuff.
Genius.
Yeah, exactly. And then he saves the world and saves the economy of Sweden. So that's pretty much, and he slays a lot of puss on the way.
Oh man, beautiful. And we can have. I just know for a fact they make a trailer for this movie. The very end of the trailer is gonna be like Ollie doing some weird crazy thing, and he's gonna be like, I am the king of the swing, and then boom, just like in cinemas near you or some shit. Like that's the punchline. That's the not the punchline. That's the
trailer line.
That's the trailer line. Yeah, that's the big trailer moments, you know?
Yeah, completely. And I think that I think that there'll be a scene in the movie where he gets the idea for this nickname.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, somebody calls him the King of the Swing.
Ah, beautiful.
There we go.
There we go. I mean, it's got to adhere to prequel rules. We're going to get unnecessary backstories for little quotes or names, or the Han Solo name origin story where it's like, oh, I'm Han and I'm alone. Oh, Han Solo. Oh, fucking hell. We got to adhere to those prequel. We got to adhere to that prequel bullshit as always. Oh my god.
Exactly. Let's keep on talking about some more films in the Hostel extended universe. The first Hostel movie. So,
yeah. I agree.
Another main character that this movie has the strongest in the franchise, without a doubt, is the main villain of this film. Is the best in all three of them, which is the Dutch businessman, unnamed. That is his character that he's credited as. Man, this villain carries some weight. Has like. I love that he has like this perfect sort of horror movie origin that where like he doesn't get a hell of a lot of screen time, but Eli Roth gives us a little sprinkle of like his motivation of why he's sort of doing this with like his jittery hands and how he wants to be a surgeon and like the foreshadowing how he meets them all in the train and like tells them all this story about how people aren't respecting their meat anymore. They don't enjoy.
Okay, I'm so fucking happy you brought that up because I was thinking like, is he going to bring it up? All right, good. All right, yeah, keep going.
It is great foreshadowing, and also like I feel like as a first-time viewer of this movie, when watching this, I am sort of thinking like, is this guy really that harmful? Is he actually going to be a villain? Or is this just an innocent interaction that these guys are being way too judgmental of? Because I don't really trust the judgment of our protagonists here.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like the movie makes you like hate the protagonist, so like you don't really bat an eye at like the other people that they meet on their way. They meet the Dutch businessman. And Josh acts like a fucking cunt to him. So you immediately are like, okay, fuck these guys. The Dutch businessman, yeah, he was a bit grabby with him, but like the reaction. Is a bit, unwarranted, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then later on, the Dutch businessman seems to be quite friendly with Josh anyway, and gives him forgiveness for him being explicitly awful to him.
Yeah,
and then Josh and him have a drink together, and it still ends up that the Dutch businessman has purchased Josh to experiment on and dissect, essentially.
Yeah, and pretty much like spent like the first half of the movie like getting to know him, getting to know his mates, like nice connection to the his introductory scene with him talking about like the man's relationship with food and how we've lost that, and he likes to get acquainted with it before eating or like just with the meat in general. Like great stuff. Fucking hell.
So good. And like I think it's more effective of this character as a threat with the audience and the characters sort of coming to trust him a little bit. And almost thinking like, are we looking too much into this and are we being too judgmental? And then letting him in a little bit. And then he lets himself in to a way too extreme level. And it is like appealing to this fear of traveling and exploring a place and not being sure who to trust and who not to. And speaking of villains, I have a favorite scene in this film by far almost that I just like. I adore this scene, which is that so it comes when Paxton has been kidnapped and he just escapes the like his own death and torture and like being ripped up with a chainsaw. And he's going through now, and he's disguised himself as one of the clients.
Oh,
and
yes,
he's
okay,
like trying
I know
to
what you're
escape.
talking about. Yeah.
And I think that's like, I really, really love this section of the movie. It's really, really interesting to explore this like behind the scenes of how this elite hunting club and how it works. And then Paxton goes into a room and encounters the American client, who sort of gives us an into the other side of the world and like gives us a little bit of I think a seamless exposition into what the elite hunting club is all about. Yeah. And I adore this interaction. I find it so interesting because it gives you this other side of the world of like why are people doing this? It gives us a really organic way of explaining this and showing how these rich people are looking just for like the thrill of it all. And the American client gives a performance that is so endearing and creepy, and his giddiness is haunting almost.
Oh my God, yeah.
And how we saw how horrendous and filthy these torture rooms are, and it is it really is like a side note here. The production design of this movie, it creates a sense of hell. Really feels like hell. These hostile torture chambers.
Oh, completely. Can I just make a quick comment on like the set design and like just like the look of this movie? Is that like one thing I love about this film is that obviously. During the opening, during the opening, obviously, when they're in the scenes at the club and the brothel and all that, you notice how it's all like brightly lit, it's all like neon and just like really just like really oversaturated over the time. And then what I love is just like over the time as the film goes on, the color and the lighting is just like drained from the movie, drained almost like the blood from a corpse. And once we get to like the actual like torture scenes and we actually get like a look inside like the torture rooms, it is just like just all the color is gone. It is just dark, murky, disgusting bleakness, and I love the movie for that. Even like with the camera work changes halfway through the movie. You get a lot of like steady, like a lot of good crane shots and tracking shots, and just it's like cleanly done during the first act of this movie. And as we go on later on during the torture scenes, it switches to a more handheld documentary style to really hammer home just like the glitz and glamour of these characters like adventure in Europe. It's just gone, and now it is just a completely just different atmosphere, different world, a different level of hell that they're in right now. I fucking adore the film for just like for its like set design and its use of color. Like I love it for that.
I think that Alexei even describes the hostel in Slovakia as heaven.
Yeah.
And like how I almost see this movie is that like the first half is this like sexcapade dream for these boys, right? It's like the world is their oyster and it's their oyster to fuck. Yeah, and it's like. And it's this dream. There's this dreaminess to it with all the neon lights and how everyone that they seem to encounter is like quite warm towards them. Like if every woman that they're like coming into contact with is so affectionate towards them and stuff. And it's this dream that then turns into a nightmare on just like a dime.
Oh my God!
And that is like reflected in all the sets and the lighting and everything like that. So good. But anyway, I going back to this American client scene, I loved hearing this perspective and how and almost like the American client going into this for the first time doesn't know that he is going into and participating in hell. Yeah. Like he just has no idea that he is becoming one of like Satan's disciples almost by partaking in this.
Yeah.
And the guy that plays him, I was like, he looks so familiar.
He does. What is he in?
So I was thinking, I initially thought that he looked like Adam Sandler put in the microwave for a little bit. But there are two things that, like investigating him, there are two films that I've seen with him in it. Yeah. He's in Thanksgiving.
Right.
But a film that is near and dear to you and I and Marathon Me.
Okay.
He is in the Postal movie.
Wait, what? Really?
He is, yeah.
Oh my fuck. Bro, it's been... I forget sometimes that oh my god, I forget that movie exists, and oh my god, fuck.
Yeah, the Vern
Wow.
Troyer classic. I honestly cannot remember the character that he plays in the Postal movie.
I do not either. All I remember is, I mean, hell, I even barely remembered Vern Troyer being in the movie. Oh my god, that movie, just thinking about it just feels like a fucking fever dream, and the fact that we did a unreleased episode of that movie, just feels like a fucking fever dream.
Yeah, I know, right? I can't believe it. But yeah, do you have a favorite scene in this movie?
Oh man, well I really do love the Josh torture scene with the Achilles tendons. I love that. I gotta say that the scene that probably is, I mean, yeah, favorite scene, but also just in general the most horrific scene in the movie is after Paxton after he goes back, he almost escapes the torture factory and goes back in to save the Japanese tourist Kana that they had met earlier in the movie.
Yes.
And that's also a great way. That's a great way of kind of the audience, the movie kind of telling you okay, yeah, is he, he's a douchebag, but do you still hate him even though, he's been through hell and now he's going to go save someone else, actually commit a selfless act? Do you still hate him? And as he goes in, murders the American tourist that was torturing Kana, and then we get arguably the most disgusting scene in the movie so basically the American tourist blow tortures Kana's eye, so half of her face is just melted with her eye sticking out, and... oh god, he ends up having to cut the eye out of its socket, and we just get this disgusting spew of bright yellow pus. It is fucking horrific, and it just lingers on that shot for several seconds. It is, oh my god, it is disgusting, and oh my lord, it's that was always the scene that stuck out to me for years after I had watched it, I remember I kept turning to you during that scene because I was just okay, I need to see this man's reaction, and you weren't audible, but I did see visible disgust, and I was okay, good.
It would be hard not to be disgusted by that scene.
Oh my god, yeah.
That's one of those scenes that pops up very commonly on top 10 most gory deaths in horror movies. Yeah, and for very deserved reasons.
No, completely.
But I'm so glad that you bring up that scene because now thinking about it, that is an extremely important scene for it's our new protagonist's test to see if it's his test of the movie to see if he has gone through this change or not, because what I think this is saying, right, this decision of do I go and save myself or do I go in there and try and get the tourist and save her, is it calls back to this very explicit objectification of women at the start of the movie, and almost places a line of where is the line in objectifying human beings, and the line is torture, I guess. Yeah, that's very much his test, an integral scene. Then, something that I feel is a little I don't know how realistic it is, and it almost turns me off a little bit. Is what happens then with this tourist and how they make it out of the torture warehouse, and then they get to the train station, and then she takes one look of herself in the mirror, sees her face, and then just immediately decides, oh, okay, I'm gonna jump in front of the train now and kill myself.
Right, yeah.
That's really? Are you really gonna kill yourself because your face is a bit fucked up? Paxton's done all this work to save you and make sure that you're okay.
All for nothing.
The swelling.
All for nothing.
The swelling will go down. Surely you can probably get some skin grafts or something, and then you'll be okay. You'll be spick and span once again.
Yeah, you're the way you're talking. You're acting like that. This is something that it'll just clear up in a couple weeks or whatever. You're making it sound like it's an acne breakout or something.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll be fine. You've just lost an eye and half your face is just completely fucking singed with a blowtorch. You'll be right. Don't worry about it.
like, who knows? Ollie maybe could be fine. His head could probably just grow back if he just wouldn't be such a pussy about it all.
Yeah, oh,
if he would
literally.
Just give it a bit of time, it'll grow back. It'll be fine.
Exactly.
So with this film raising so many points about like the exploring on new lands and being respectful to it, as well as like the objectification of people in many different levels.
Yeah.
I love this, and I think that it is a great point of contention for conversation and like debates. But I do feel like that the Hostel movie, like this first one, doesn't go too hard on a firm contention of what it is trying to say about this, I feel.
Yeah,
Other than, of course, like, torture is bad. Ooh. Maybe sleeping around isn't as bad as torture. Like,
yeah. I feel like that the movie is kind of like a commentary on, like, you know, what people and, like, you know, and what they will pay for pleasure. Like, obviously, it's, you know, I wouldn't say it's exactly subtle with it, because obviously we've got, you know, the first half of the movie, you know, them paying for, them paying to do what they want to these women at the brothel. You know, like, oh, I've paid for you, I can do whatever I want to you now. And then obviously, you know, then we have that through line throughout the rest of the movie with later on these businessmen, these elites, these fucking monsters, these friends of Jeffrey Epstein, basically, just doing the same thing, paying to do what they want to these people with no thought about it, or remorse, or even like a sense of human connection to these, basically the property that they've basically purchased. Like, there's probably a better way to word it, but that's definitely, like, I feel one of the biggest through lines for this movie is that it's like like a critique or a commentary on just like on how people pay for pleasure, and like how far are you willing to, and like how far are some people willing to go to, like, to get that rush, to get that kind of, that sense of pleasure, whether that be sexual or masochistic, or, you know, obviously this is like more than just like masochistic in that context, you know what I mean? Like, this is just like fucking murder, pretty much, you know?
Yep, very fair. There's what I totally agree that this is it's all conversations to be opened right on comparison, but I feel like that Eli Roth doesn't have a firm contention of what what is he saying is the difference between these two things? Is he saying that is he saying that sex work is not moral in the same way that this, like, torture is moral? Like, I feel like that he's like, oh, isn't this a bit interesting how similar these are? But isn't saying that one is, well, it's like, of course it's presented that one is less harmful than the other. Yeah, right. But in what degree, and what is he showing through the film of that? I feel like that is us inferring that it's like, well, obviously sex work is nowhere near as harmful as column B.
I think maybe it's less so to do with the businesses of sex work and torture, and more so maybe, you know, starting a conversation on the types of people that buy into, you know, these industries. I reckon. Like, I think, like, he's maybe more so kind of like calling out less so the businesses and more the people, and like the types of people that go to these establishments, I feel.
Maybe it's like a slippery slope sort of thing. It's like if you are happy to, like, partake in sex work and, like, paying for sex, it's like all well and good, but just make sure that this paying for people as objects and gratification doesn't become a slippery slope where you want a little bit more, and then you're then you're purchasing people to kill them and torture them.
Well, I mean,
maybe it's like that.
I mean, even during like the American Tourist scene, we literally get just a blatant line of him like, you know, commenting on like, oh yeah, I went on like a sex tour of Europe and like, you know, that was great, but it just got really boring after a while. It just didn't do anything for me. So obviously, I need to raise the bar a bit, you know. So I feel like that is definitely like a decent through line throughout this movie.
Perfect. That is it. It is Eli Roth being like, it's fine to do this. Just make sure that you don't get caught on a slippery slope, getting deeper and deeper. It's like explore the iceberg, but don't go too deep on this iceberg.
Yeah. Don't go to the depths.
It can be messy.
Yeah, don't go to the depths.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe stay above water. Awesome. That's like, we've solved it. We have solved Hostel.
We've cracked the case. Don't worry, everybody. No one else. I'm sure no one else has had discussions about this movie. We're the first. Don't worry. I have one thing I want to mention about the ending is that, so obviously, you know, we get Paxton, you know, getting revenge on the Dutch businessman, taking his fingers and, you know, like giving comeuppance. So there was actually, did you know that there's an alternate ending to this movie?
No, I did not.
Yeah, okay, interesting. Yeah, so basically in the alternate ending, you know how the Dutch businessman early in the film mentions he has a daughter?
Oh, yes.
So basically, from what I can gather, in the alternate ending, so the Dutch businessman is traveling with his daughter, and he goes off to the bathroom, same as the original, as the theatrical ending. But instead of Paxton killing the businessman, he ends up kidnapping his daughter, and that's where the film ends, which is Paxton just basically just doing child kidnapping pretty much. And test audiences ended up hating that ending, so they decided to change it. And I feel like I'm happy with, you know, that not being the canon ending, because I don't know, there's just something about
way better
that. I just feel like there's just something about, like, you know, Paxton just like, you know, I mean, yes, I know getting back at the Dutch businessman, sure, but I don't know, there's just something about, like, you know, like you know, how far he's come, you know, in the story and as a character, for him to just start, you know, kidnapping people, a child nonetheless. I don't know, it just rubs me the wrong way, you know.
It's way more satisfying a violent death of the businessman rather than a child being kidnapped. Like you can sort of, during this death scene in the bathroom, you can sort of, like, you're rooting for Paxton and you're like, fuck yeah, get him. Yeah. Where you can't really root for a child kidnapping.
No, exactly.
It feels a little bit grosser.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of like not only is it just like not satisfying an ending for like the casual audience, because like, you know, you want one more big death scene before the horror film ends, but also like in terms of, like, you know, like, yeah, it's just like character development wise for Paxton, it just comes off as gross, you know. It just really comes off as just gross and just like, you know, like even like also just like unnecessary cruelty towards an innocent party. Like, obviously fuck the Dutch businessman, but like to this child that's just being kidnapped, like it's just unnecessarily cruel in an already cruel movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It didn't need that. So Thank you, test audiences, for making this a better movie.
Thank you. But that's pretty much I feel like I've said all I need to say about this film.
One last contention that Hostel seems to have as a movie is that, in the end, our protagonist Paxton is the only one of our three that is able to get out of the Hostel warehouse torture chambers, and he's only able to get out of there by exercising his Second Amendment rights to bear arms, gets a gun, shoots his torturer, and gets out scot-free. So the moral of the story is that if they all just had a gun, maybe they'd be okay. And don't forget to check out our Facebook page at MarathonMeOfficial, all one word, and our Instagram, MarathonMe_official, to keep up to date on the podcast. And hey, if you want to get into contact with us, email us at marathonmepodc, yes, the letter C, @gmail.com. Like podcast without the ask.